Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about Amazon Virtual Private Cloud. The Amazon VPC is a virtual network that is dedicated to one's AWS account. It is logically isolated from other virtual networks in the AWS cloud. There, you can launch your AWS resources like EC2. Recall that in some previous videos where I launched EC2 instances, I've had to do so in a default VPC. But in today's demo, we're going to create a VPC and then launch an EC2 into the VPC. So to begin, we'll go to VPC. Okay, here we go. Now, before you create a VPC, you have to first decide into which region you want to create it. So, and of course, you can make that decision here. You can decide which region you want to launch or you want to create the VPC. And I'm going to leave mine at United States, North Virginia. So this is the region I'm going to launch the VPC in. So the next step is to select create VPC. Okay. Now, something it gets interesting here. There are two options by which you can create a VPC. You have the option of VPC only and then VPC and more. Let's try it out and see. If we select VPC only, what it means is that you will be creating more like a hollow VPC, a VPC alone with no subnets, no route table, no internet gateway. So you have to create these other components separately. Obviously, it's not in many instances, it's not an ideal way to do so. But if we go by VPC and more, then we will have the chance to create not just the VPC, but also the associating components. We can just tidy up everything in one, just from one spot. So we're going to create VPC and more. Let's go down a bit. Okay, so we're going to give a name to our VPC and we're leaving the auto generate on. What it means is that whatever name we give to our VPC, it will also be associated with the other components. So here we can leave it at project, but let me say demo. So let's say demo. If you look over here at the preview, you can see it's already identified it as demo VPC. So let's go down. Okay, what is our IPv4 cyber block range? Okay, we already have an option here. Of course, you can always change if you have a specific range of IPv4 addresses you want. You can always make those inputs here. But for this demo, let's leave it at the one suggested. Of course, no IPv4 SATA block. We go down tenancy, we leave it at default. Now, availability zones. You can launch a VPC. You can choose one, two, or even three or more availability zones. Okay, in this case, we're going to also leave it to make our work a little more, what's the right word now? Just make it as slim as possible. So we leave it at two availability zones. Of course, there's the option of customizing the AZs. For instance, you look at the first availability zone here, is already choosing a US East 1A for us. Second availability zone, you have US East 1B. There is always the option of making a change. You can decide to make use of 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, and so on. You can also decide to change the second availability zone. But for this demo, we're going to also leave it as it is. Then we'll move down to number of subnets. Okay. Now, we have the option of choosing our public and private subnets. Remember that a public subnet is linked to the internet gateway. It has access. It can be accessed over the internet through the internet gateway, whereas the private subnet does not have such link to the internet gateway. So, as suggested, okay, let's also make use of just two public subnets and then two private subnets as well. AWS also gives you the option of customizing the subnet SATA blocks. Okay, so you can see here, this is our public subnet in US East 1A. Look at the SATA block here. There's always the option of adjusting it to your own specification. This is the second subnet. Look at the SATA block as well. Then this is our two private subnets. Of course, whatever you're doing, you have to ensure that the SATA blocks do not overlap. Okay. So, for this demo, we're also going to be leaving our SATA block range as suggested. So let me close this. Okay. Then we'll go to NAT gateway. We'll leave it at that. Okay. So this is just basically, let's look at the preview of what we've customized. You can see the name of our VPC, demo VPC. Okay, and we are launching 4 subnets there, or we're having 4 subnets. You see the first public subnet in US East 1A. Then this is the private subnet. This is the second public subnet, and this is the second private subnet. We'll move further. Okay, now these are the route tables. You can see the first route tables connecting the two public subnets, and then these are two other routes connecting the private subnets. Okay, and then if we still move further, you can see the internet gateway. Okay, So you can see that by choosing VPC and more, we've not only just created a VPC, but would also with some of the needed components. So with this, we can say create VPC. Okay, our VPC is creating. You can see it checking. Okay, success. So we've created our VPC. Let's go and take a look at it. Let me refresh. Okay, so here is our demo VPC here. This is the default VPC. Every AWS account comes with one default VPC in every region. So we've simply created our own default VPC. Okay, let's just take a look at some of the properties. So you can see some of the properties here. This is the VPC ID. Status is already available. Okay. Look at the SADA block. Okay. So let's play a little at it. So you can also see the resource map, just like the preview we saw previously. Okay. What actions can we take? Okay. So this is our VPC. Let's look at the subnets. Let me refresh. These subnets here are the default subnets in this region, the default subnets that come with the default VPC. So I'll have to refresh so that the subnets we recently created will appear. Okay, you see it's changed to 10 now. 6 plus the additional 4 subnets. So you can see them here. Demo VPC, demo subnets, public. This is the private, this is the private. Okay, and there's one more. Okay, so this is the first. So these are 4 subnets. Let's look at the route tables. Okay, so there are 5 route tables here, 3 new ones, and then 2 defaults. So you can see them them identifying with the VPC we just created. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now is to launch an EC2 instance into the VPC. Okay, so let's go to recently used services. I'll select EC2. Let me go to instances so we can see what instance I already have here. Okay, I already have one instance there. So to create another one, I'll go to launch instances. Okay, now let's go on, give a name to our instance in keeping with the name we've already used before. So I'll call it demo server. Let's call it demo server. Okay, and then select our AMI. Let's go with Amazon Linux. Instance type. Let's leave it at T2 micro. Key pair login. I have a key pair here. There's always the option of making use of it and the option of proceeding without a key. Of course, it's not recommended, but this is just a demo. So in real life situation, it's always advised that one make use of a key pair. But for this demo, let's just leave it at proceed without a key. So I'll proceed without a key. Then network settings. Very, very important. So I'll go to edit. This is where we'll now launch our EC2 into the VPC. So I'll go to edit. You can see my default VPC here, but let's select the VPC that we created. So I'll select that. Now this is the demo VPC, so we'll select it. Good. So we are now going to be launching in the demo VPC. Okay. Now subnets. Into which subnet are we going to launch it? Let's look at what subnets we have here. As you can see, we have 4 subnets here. Look at them. Demo subnet public US East 1B. Okay. This is the second one, public US East 1A. Then these are the 2 private subnets. So remember, depending on what the instance you're launching, what purpose is going to serve, you have to make the decision of either launching in a public subnet or a private subnet. Okay. So in this case, we're going to be launching in a public subnet, sorry. And let's change it to US East 1A. So I select US East 1A. Okay. Auto assign IP address. Yes, let's enable that. Okay. Now create security group. We have the option of creating our own security, creating a new security group. We can easily do that through here, or selecting from a default, or selecting from already existing one. Okay. I have no security group in this subnet, in this VPC, besides the default one. Perhaps we should just make use of the default. So I select existing security group and select the defaults. Okay, so this is the default security group associated with the VPC we created. Let's move down. Okay, let's configure storage. I'll change this to, let's say, 30. And then, okay, so there are still the advanced details in case we want to proceed, maybe enable termination protection and the likes. So we can still go to the advanced settings, but we can leave that for now. So let's look at the summary of our configuration. See, we're creating just one VPC. We're using Amazon Linux as our AMI. We're using T2 micro as our instant type. Security group, we're making use of the defaults. Then this is our storage. Okay, so let's launch. Success. So we've launched our EC2. Let's view all instances. Okay, so there's our demo server. There is our demo server. Okay, so let's select and look at some of the details. Okay, so this is our instance ID. Sorry, this is our instance ID. Okay, this is the IPv4 address. Recall, this is the VPC ID. You can see the demo VPC here. Okay, and then the subnet. Remember the subnet name here. Demo subnet public US East 1A. So you can see that we successfully launched our instance in the demo VPC and then in the public subnet at US East 1A. Okay, so that's about that. Our virtual machine is up and running, so we can connect to it and carry out any task we want to. Okay, that will be that for today. Thank you and see you again.